Greetings. Thanks for joining us once again. Our show today is focused on the fact that there's an ex-Ketchum advertising executive that considers Tesla the best advertiser anywhere on planet Earth. We chose this topic today because Elon has talked about potentially doing advertising. And I find this comical because his advertising is the best. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If you're a repeat customer, welcome back. If you'd like better ideas from investing and trading, please join us. Now, today is a rather unusual show. The reason is that not only did I work for Ketchum when I was in college, but I actually had my own advertising PR firm after college, after working for Ketchum for several years. Now, I slightly digress to review with you what just happened to Anheuser-Busch. As you may recall, there's an influencer that they hired, and that influencer was transgender. The result / impact of that influencer's presence in Bud Light's advertising was a 25% decline in sales for that unit of InBev. So this is an example of how advertising currently works. There's the PR side of the house, there's the print or television advertising side of the house, there's also the social media side of the house, as you know. And with technology and social, there's been an evolution of how and what advertising looks like. So the question that's buzzing in your brain is, wait a second, there's a company, in this case Anheuser-Busch, that lost 25% of its sales based on the influencer they chose. That move was part of an advertising strategy that picked up several elements of print at point of sale, the television ads, as well as the selection and paying of this influencer for their activities. Well, guess what? That's what integrated advertising looks like. Now, let's port all this over to Tesla. Now, Elon pointed out that I might decide to do some advertising. Well, in this social media driven world, Elon / Tesla has 135 million followers, right? In fact, Elon's such a popular, the potential influence of your tweets and statements is directly related to how many followers you have. And that's why, in case of InBev / Budweiser, that they selected this transgender person with a very large following of people. So what this suggests then is, with Elon being the number one most followed executive of any company on planet Earth, and also buying Twitter at the boot, that makes Tesla one of the most effective advertising entities in the world, because he is an influencer on his own company or other entities that he chooses to bring to light within his process, if you will. So after I saw the comment about advertising and it hit the media waves about his advertising, I was kind of stunned, because I was like, well, I'm an expert at social media and advertising and PR, and Tesla's got the best. And you will see, as Tesla does things, the best in action. Let's review illustrations of this. Number one, anytime Tesla has an event, it's retweeted and broadcast across all media outlets. Well, the job in advertising / PR isn't to say, usually what happens is you choose to put 2 to 4% of your revenue dollars into advertising as a way to both establish, maintain, and grow your brand. Well, that's the good old days before Twitter, before the internet hit as hard as it has. The new days means an integrated advertising strategy means that you're working across a number of media with other techniques to keep your brand and your conversation in front of consumers, both old, current, and new potential customers. Now, the big question you're asking, which is an excellent one, which is how is Tesla the best advertiser in the world? Well, the answer is that for the PR side of the house of advertising in the old days, what would happen is that an editor would need a comment, let's say, on a topic. Let's say you're an investment bank and there's something happening in investments. What would happen is that that media company calls the bank and asks for a spokesman to talk about some investment activity that's going on that they may be an expert in. Now this gives exposure for the firm. That's old line PR. New line PR is the tweeting process that Elon does on a regular basis. So the biggest issue and the reason why I rate Tesla as the best advertiser in the world is you have to look at how many dollars you have to put out to get your message in front of a customer. Yes, it could be for an ad on TV. Yes, it could be a whole range of things, t-shirts provided, events that you might sponsor, concerts, all these other things. In all of those cases, you're getting your brand in front of consumers. Well, when you have 135 million followers like Elon does, all those dollars being spent by competitors, you don't have to spend. And how you rate how successful your advertising is how much cash did you have to put out, okay, to get to your audience, keep your brand and its development in front of those in front of that audience, and to do so on a routine basis so that your buyer retains top of mind share when it's time for them to consume, buy a product that fits in your realm. So, Elon actually did a test of whether or not he's the best. And that test was, would him doing unusual things at Twitter relative to firing employees, etc., influence what's going on in Tesla? And he actually tested that and found that it affected the sales of Tesla. From what I can tell, no more than 3 to 5%. But it illustrates the fact that advertising is powerful, both positive and negative, and it can negatively influence your brand if you mismanage the information that you're putting through the pipeline you've developed. So if you rate the footprint of Elon and Tesla when he puts those tweets out against entities around the globe that actually advertise, his efficiency is better than any other entity in the world currently. And the metric is the number of followers that both get and respond to those tweets that he's putting out. So I believe this discussion of we might advertise is a complete joke. And the reason it's a joke is because there's nothing he doesn't have access to already that allows him to, at no dollar cost to the company, get the message of Tesla out and in front of the public on a regular basis. So I'm intrigued because after I heard that comment, I was like, wait a second, I work for Ketchum. I know what people do in terms of brand building or brand destruction. I also have some idea of what it costs to get a message out to consumers. And this is why Twitter is brilliant. It's a great company and its influence is extremely powerful. And, all the new things he's doing in terms of allowing you to do certain banking things and putting, the feed, for example, for the last investor meeting, there's a bunch of ways he can push his message out through the media outlet of Twitter that he now controls. So with all this in mind, and I know Elon's a really bright guy, um, I really think that, you know, when I hear this, I'm I was sort of chuckling, and I kept waiting for somebody else to point out the obvious, but I had to do it myself because it doesn't seem to, the narrative doesn't seem to be changing. Now, the one last thing I wanted to review is there are dollars that are so if dollars go out of the company and they're in the marketing slash advertising slash PR phase, so when Elon does a tweet, there's actually a cost to that. If you figure out what his value is to the company and the time it took to think and put the tweet on, you now have cost there, but that cost is way low to almost nothing given the impact that he has when he does a tweet. The other thing that I'm still confused about, and I totally disagree with a lot of people on, is, for example, look down on my page and you'll notice that there's a referral code there. If you use that referral code, and we actually get a certain amount of miles of charging out of that. Well, there's a whole bunch of referral codes out there for other entities. And so that's actually paid advertising because there's a cost to that electricity. And therefore, Elon has been advertising all along. I'll also remind you that at least one YouTuber is owed at least two of the brand new Roadsters at $250K a piece because of the number of referrals that resulted in sales from his site. So this is still advertising dollars, folks. It costs money to provide free Roadsters as part of that promotion. It costs money to provide free charging based on the number of referrals that have come through your entity. So let's lay off on the whole advertising thing, because if you really think about it, particularly with his control and ownership of Twitter, Elon is one of the biggest advertisers on planet Earth. And if you really take the time to dig further, you'll realize, you know, other unique ways in which they have an excellent marketing and advertising process that could yield a lot more if Elon decided to put more time and energy into it. You know, I'd have to say that one last one that pops to mind is the routine software interface that Tesla has with vehicle owners facilitates another way in which Elon could push messages or other information out to current owners and people affiliated with those owners as another form of advertising. So I want to have a little game here in our comment section, which is to ask you to just mention different ways in which Tesla gets ostensibly what's called free advertising, but it is advertising, it has an impact. It's just that there are a lot of people that seem to think if they didn't say give $1 million to this TV station, therefore it's not advertising. That's not the case, because this has been the goal of PR in terms of how to get the message of a company out at an optimized cost of doing so. And the best way to do that for now is to have a press conference like they do and have all those people and cameras show up and they disseminate the message for Tesla. Notice also all the drone flyovers. Elon doesn't argue against those because all those flyovers at all the factories of Tesla, Tesla has helped facilitate that to some extent in terms of the process. Again, great advertising, and Elon recognizes that. And I also wanted to highlight that our activities here, you guys may have noticed that once or twice a month we go by Tesla service facilities and show you footage of what's going on there. Well, executives at Tesla actually watched our show, and it's changed how they manage the opening or closing of doors at those facilities relative to the fact that we actually shoot video of inventories, either high or low, at all these service facilities. Another form of advertising. So, at any rate, we look forward to your comments on this. Next, just a reminder on your health tips. Now, if you're a visitor, we have a series of health tips. They're listed formally. I typically highlight a few of those and try adding to that if possible. The keys for today is, again, don't forget your 20-minute walk. Also wanted to encourage you to do your 25 leg lifts a day with or without a 5-pound weight. And I also wanted to encourage you to try to establish and maintain your circadian rhythm of sleep, ensuring that you're not gassed, tired, etc., and that helps facilitate more of an enjoyment of life. At any rate, I wanted to add to our list today that at least once a year at 50 plus, eye exam is a good idea relative to the fact that if anything is caught early, it's a quick activity in the office versus having to go in for a major surgery and a lot more costs and other issues popping up. At any rate, once again, thanks for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. I will break down what I thought, other information that came out from the presentation for the investor group. The stock price is up on the news, particularly I think on potential revenue from robots. But the bottom line is that the market likes what they're hearing and seeing, particularly with the arrival of the Cybertruck, which is something we've been covering regularly for the last month. And so I think there's a lot of potential for Tesla's move north towards a $200 price target. And as you know, we covered the 280 price target that's out there from other analysts. Have a great day. Bye for now. Thanks for joining us. Tschüss, au revoir, and enough respect.